a change in levels to get it to the mat, and he was able to utterly dominate a huge matchup.
What's next is either a big name or a big rank. Whoever it is, I'm here to tell you guys I am one of the best in the world.
Grant KGD Dawson! Welcome to UFC Unfiltered.
Please tell me that's on video. I've never been happier.
I'm made for a fucking podcast. We're dangerous. Listen to me, we're at it.
Welcome to UFC Unfiltered. Me with my glasses. I've just totally given up on pretending I don't need them every 10 seconds to look at something. We have Grant Dawson joining us today. He is half of the main event on Saturday against Bobby Green. What a great fight that's going to be. And Ryan Clark, DC's podcast partner. He's a co-host of DC and RC and Pivot Pod. He'll be in with us as well today, which is nice. He's obviously an NFL player, professional athlete, but he really loves UFC and MMA.
Grant Dawson's got a submission win over Jared Gordon.
He does, yes.
He's good with the subs.
Yeah.
Speaking of subs, not to be a fat guy, you know what I don't usually eat, but I ate the other day? I had I had more than one. I had a
penises?
No.
Just because you said you had more than one.
I had a meatball sub from Subway.
Oh, fucking Subway sucks. I hate Subway.
I know, but
the meatball subs rule.
The meatball subs all good though, right?
I don't know if I've ever had one. I prefer a Wawa, but I like a good sub.
You like Wawa?
I do, but I try not to eat it because again, I'm trying to lose weight, and we've had company for the last few days. So there's been I've been eating fudge stripe cookies. What a little fatso I've been eating like.
There used to be a thing when I was little called Fudge Town. that's what you're into now. But now, back then, Fudge Town was a cookie. And
I remember that.
There was a sheriff on the box. And I don't know why there's a sheriff on the box.
Well, he's Mayor of Fudge. He's a sheriff of Fudge Town.
Listen, you know what? We saw it's a little rocky start today. Why don't we start talking? Why don't we dive into some MMA action?
I disagree. I think that a little cookie talk is the way to get everybody warmed up. We got Grant's in the waiting room, so let's bring him right in. He's half the main event. I believe it's his first main event too.
Did you know that Grant is a huge Star Wars fan?
Yes, I did know that. Which I figured would please you a great deal. Hi, Grant. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, sir. Very good.
Grant, nice to see you, man. Listen, this is very exciting. I'm reading here. I better have the right notes. I'm reading here that you're a huge Star Wars fan. Is that true?
That is 100% true.
Oh, I know where this interview is going. We'll talk
are you a
about
Star Wars
this.
fan?
Oh my goodness. Are you watching the new Ahsoka series?
Okay. Hear me out, Matt. Hear me out.
I'm with you. Oh, this is going to be fun.
I'm waiting because Disney has destroyed the one thing that I love in this world as much as MMA, Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting for it to completely come out. And then I'm going to ask people whose opinion on Star Wars I respect, and then I will make my decision if I watch it. So far, it sounds like I'm going to watch it.
How have they ruined it? As a person who doesn't watch a lot of Star Wars stuff, was The Mandalorian not good, or what have they done that you didn't like?
The Mandalorian was fantastic. The first two seasons of The Mandalorian were great, and a lot of people didn't like the Book of Boba Fett. I loved the Book of Boba Fett. Thought it was very well done.
Loved it.
It was great.
You loved it. Interesting. Go ahead.
The third season of The Mandalorian was good, but they really should have just called it I can't think of her name right now, Bo-Katan, because it was really about her. Like, she saved the Mandalorian, I think, a total of 9 times. She never made a single mistake in the whole season. And I get it. She's a badass. And I really enjoy her story, but I just didn't want to see a season about her. Give her her own show.
Right.
Hey man, Jimmy, let me dive in here. What did you think of Obi-Wan?
I didn't like it.
Me neither. I don't like that sassy Sith. Forget that B. I don't like her story. Just like you talked about Bo-Katan, they make it about this girl who grew up in the Jedi Temple, and she's like a black Sith or something, or a black Inquisitor, right? Inquisitor or one.
Right.
And she's all pissed off, and she's all angry. She's doing everything but snap her fingers, and she's fucking. I don't care about her story. How about you tell her story another time? They made Obi-Wan, I hate to say it, they made him a pussy. They made him, they have a young Jedi. Oh man, we got to do something. No, we got to just lay low. They hang that guy up in the town square before Obi-Wan can find his nuts. It's brutal.
You didn't like it?
Obi-Wan, I didn't even make it through. I heard he put Vader in it. I didn't even watch it.
It's really bad. And the thing about it too is like there's so many details that we could go into, but the biggest one is that it was the most anticipated Star Wars show ever. Like everybody wanted Obi-Wan, and they made it about this girl that like we've never heard of. We'd had no clue who she was. Like she's not in any of the other lore. She's not there aren't even like little hints of her anywhere else. We made it about her. And of course, she's not really the bad guy. She's doing bad things for the right reason because, you know, she can't make a mistake. Like women don't make mistakes. What?
You don't like Disney. You don't like the tone of what Disney's doing. You think that they're trying to put like a spin on it and make heroes for the wrong reasons. Like just to say, hey, see, look what we did here, made her a hero, and they don't need to do it.
They're more worried about pumping out consistent content than good content. The thing about Star Wars is the story. If you watch the first 6 films, it's about the story. Like people who aren't into sci-fi enjoy Star Wars because it's not about the sci-fi, it's about the people. And when you do this type of thing and you worry more about just getting out content constantly, that goes way down. Everybody hates the prequels. There's just so much stuff that and they're pandering. Like they want to check boxes. And look, I'm all for getting more representation in there. I'm about that. But you have to do it the right way, or it makes things go backwards instead of forwards. Yeah,
don't compromise you can serve both of those needs. Just don't make something suck. Like my favorite Star Wars thing is the Christmas special that they did in the 7th. That is my favorite Star Wars thing, was when they go to Chewbacca's house and they had B. Arthur. To me, that was the purest form of George Lucas.
And then they add words to the Star Wars theme song at the end. That was crazy.
Now, you like the Book of Boba Fett. I was a little mixed on it. I thought they made they wanted to give the actor who plays Boba Fett some screen time, so they kept his helmet off. And I thought Boba Fett was way cooler when he was guest starring in The Mandalorian. He was a freaking badass. And all of a sudden, they give him his own series. They have these young punks talking shit to him. He's like, all right, I like your spunk, kid. No, they made him. I don't know what they did with him. All I know is Frank Trigg was a Gamorrean guard. And I like the fact that I knocked him out. Jimmy.
No, so I really enjoyed it. It was different. So you had The Mandalorian, which was kind of like a Western style, right? He's a bounty hunter that's a Western. And then you go into like, it was like gang wars for me. You know, you got like Al Pacino style of Star Wars, which I really enjoyed. That's not to say that there were crappy things about the Book of Boba Fett. I 100% agree with that. Those kids that he like brought into his gang, that was weird. That was super weird.
I like the Wookiee. There's an evil Wookiee in it.
The Wookiee was really, really good. I think they could have done more with him. I think that would have been a lot better. And then the biggest thing this is the biggest problem with Star Wars right now, is that death is not a real thing. Like, we'll go back to the Obi-Wan series. That girl gets stabbed in the gut twice in that show. Once as a child, once as an adult, and survives. Like, dang. And it's insane. And then you got these characters that died in the Book of Boba Fett. And then at the end, turns out, they're not dead. I feel like that's the biggest problem. It's not giving us consequence for the story anymore.
Oh, the biggest piece of shit, besides Rian Johnson's freaking The Last Jedi, I thought they did a good job with the new one, when the new series, The Force Awakens. And then Ryan Johnson came in, shit over everything. And then the other guy came back to try to patch it up. And it was a disaster. Who was the first guy? J.R. Abrams. Who is it?
Yes. Oh my God. Now none of us are going to remember Abrams. It begins not Jerry Abrams.
Something Abrams.
J.J. Abrams.
JJ.
Yeah.
He did. I liked The Force Awakens. I thought it was good. But then they totally crapped on it with Ryan Johnson's freaking thing. And then it was just too hard to put. Then all of a sudden the Emperor's back. And what are you talking about?
Dude, the problem is that it feels like they made each movie not knowing what the next movie was going to be. Because like you said, it's like, who is this Snoke guy? Like we had so many theories about who Snoke was. We had so many theories about where this was going. And then we were all wrong because they were like, no, we're going to bring back the Emperor, which makes no sense. And then making Rey the chosen one, get the F out of here, man. Like, man.
They just weird, man. I don't know. I'm not digging it, man. But all I know is if you've seen some of the animated shows, I don't know how much you're into this. There's a show called The Rebels. Now, Ahsoka is pretty much a continuation of that.
Right.
I'm not going to give too much away. But this is what I will say one thing. And this sums up Disney right now. It's hard to make, like, they don't want them on pair. They don't want them equal as far as with the men and the women as far as being badasses. They want the women a little bit more to be badasses. I'm a father of 3 daughters. It's not like I'm totally against that, but come on, man. I mean, even they, long story short, I know they find Ezra Bridger. You know that. You got to kind of know that. They find them. You know the one.
Right. Yep.
So they find them in Ahsoka. All I know is there's 2 fucking futuristic fucking horses. Who's riding bitch is fucking the dude. The 2 girls are riding and he's around one of their waists like, all right. The bad guys. Really? I don't know.
You don't like the purposeful, the gender reversals that are being done on purpose are annoying, right?
It's kind of silly.
It's not so much that the gender reversals. It's that when they flip it, they think making a strong female character means she can have no flaws, which is not true. The thing that makes all the male characters have to go through some type of flaw. I have to get over this. I have to get over this. Women are just perfect, apparently. You have daughters. Women aren't perfect. That's what I didn't like about Bo-Katan was she could never make a single mistake in the whole series. Like, it humanizes her to make a mistake. It humanizes her to make a mistake and come back.
You figure that they're making these characters like a writer is creating what they want the girls to rally around, and instead of making them a believable character that also sucks and fucks up and then all of a sudden overcomes and becomes something good.
Who doesn't mess up? Who does? Women aren't perfect. Men aren't perfect. But for some reason in Disney, they have to put women as these perfect beings. And I'm for show me the women's side of I'm for it, but they can't be perfect. Just like in the Obi-Wan series when she's the bad guy. So finally we have a black female character who's strong and she's evil. Okay, this is cool. Then it turns out she's not actually evil. She's a good guy because women can't be evil. That's not how it works. It's like, dude, shut up, man. Like they're flawed just like we are. Show us how they're flawed and show us how they get over it.
Yeah, they should show a Jedi going through a divorce and losing half his shit.
Listen, they should just make them badasses. There's nothing wrong with making the women badasses, but don't make the men really weak, dude. I mean, come on, man. You got young kids just looking up to these guys, being like, all right, I guess I'll just let her take the lead. They should make them equally badasses, but do it. Give them some morals. How about that? That's fine.
The problem is you can't. It shows that we can't both be strong. Like, if a woman's strong, then a man has to be weak. How about we're just both strong and we complement each other in different ways? There's things that my wife can do, who's 105 pounds, that I could never do. Like, she has her strengths and I have my strengths, and we complement each other, which is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, agreed.
And before I know we're gonna move on from this. But let me just ask you, your favorite Star Wars movie, not series. I'd go with Mandalorian. Even though, wait, really quick, you like Andor? I like Andor a lot.
Yeah, Andrew was good. It was good. I'm not a big Rogue One fan. I know everybody. Hear me out. Hear me out.
Why not?
Everybody loves Rogue One. Other than the scene at the end where Darth Vader and the battle scene at the end, super cool. Loved it. Other than that, that movie was so boring. Like,
You thought so?
Dude, I didn't care about these characters at all. The main character, and you're never going to be able to unsee it. She looks like Bugs Bunny because her two front teeth are so big. Like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I have no emotional attachment. They kissed at the end. They hated each other the whole movie. The only reason they kissed at the end was because they were both about to die. Like,
maybe he wanted to hate kiss her.
Yeah, there you go.
And Darth Vader came in with a big carrot and fed it to her, big rabbit tooth lady.
Dude, I love the scene at the end with Darth Vader.
Unbelievable, cool. Yeah.
But other than that, the movie was just meh. I'm going to be honest with you. I like Solo better. I thought Solo was a way better movie than Rogue One.
Solo gets shit on. Solo had some cool characters. I liked the Woody Harrelson character. I liked his whole team. I liked the heist part of it. There's a lot of stuff I did like about Solo.
The Gang Lord.
The only problem is I didn't like that. I don't think maybe if it was anybody but Han Solo, because it didn't really feel like Han Solo. It felt like they trying to play Han Solo. I don't know.
I felt like they did the best that they could do. Like, if you don't like what he's saying, who would you have casted? And I think that it's like, I can't think of anybody, I think he did the best he could have done.
Yeah, he did good, but I enjoyed it. I liked the little Darth Maul thing at the end, which
they could have built off of. They could have built off that and made like 6 movies off of that. But no, let's make sure Rey is. Yeah. Which she's getting 3 more movies. She's getting 3 more movies, Matt. Like, what?
What's the Finn? Poor Finn got friend zoned, and then he had that little chubby Asian girl that didn't like. They didn't.
Was Finn the son? Was he Han Solo's son?
No. What's the matter with you?
I don't remember. I hated Han's son.
He's a stormtrooper.
Oh, okay. I don't remember. Hey, we know we only have you for a short period of time because they're telling we have you for some reason brief. I wanted before you obviously we don't want to just wrap up with you. I wanted to congratulate you. This is your first main event coming up?
Yeah, first main event against a really big name, man. Everything's working out great for me right now.
What is the difference for you now? Because Bobby Green has done everything. Like, he's main evented. Bobby Green is a complete veteran, but you've had enough fights yourself, but he's a guy who's kind of run the gamut of things you can do in MMA. So Bobby Green, what's the difference for you, Grant, main eventing and the press and all that stuff that you have to do around it?
The only real difference is I get 10 more minutes to dominate. I'm a big believer when I have 3 rounds, I train 3 rounds. When I have 5 rounds, I train 5 rounds so that I'm used to that pace. I don't do extra rounds if I'm not scheduled for extra rounds, because I think that the first 3, you kind of like chill out a bit because you have 2 more coming. And if you don't actually have 2 more coming, you need to give 100% in those first 3. As for the press and the media, I kind of like it just because it's keeping me distracted, keeping me from thinking about food and keeping me from thinking about when my next meal is. So it's definitely making the time fly a little bit faster. And as for Bobby Green, I think a win over Bobby Green, I know he's not ranked, but I honestly think that a win over Bobby Green does more for my career than beating some of these ranked guys.
Have you dealt with anybody like Bob? And I wonder, some guys are completely unaffected by guys that talk in the cage and taunt a little bit, and some guys you can just tell it angers them. Have you had anybody do that to you, and how does that affect you mentally when someone does it?
I've had somebody kind of talk a little trash to me in the cage before, and I've got to tell you, I would much rather him throw words at me than punches. So I really don't think I've never seen anybody get knocked out to a word. So he can throw all the words he wants at me. I'm going to keep my eyes on his fist, his shoulders, and his kicks. That's what I'm worried about.
What do you think the advantage to that is? And Matt, I can ask you too, guys that do that, does it at times give a psychological edge? Like just, I've seen guys do stuff like drop their hands and their opponent doesn't come in and punch them. It's like almost like a schoolyard thing. It sends you back like they're afraid of, oh, he's setting me up, or if I punch him, I'm going to look bad and miss. Do you really think there's any kind of a psychological advantage to that at times, or do you not believe that at all?
Well, I think it depends on the person. I don't believe in a lot of things that are real for other people. Maybe it just doesn't affect me, like the pressure of being the main event. I think that would crumble a lot of people going into this. Oh, I'm the main event. Dude, what's the difference? It's the exact same thing. You just get to fight for 10 more minutes. Like, nothing changes. Oh, more people are watching you. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, just go in and do your thing. I think that if you're fighting somebody that's a little bit mentally weaker, talking can kind of get that going. Otherwise, I think he does it more so for himself. I think that's how he gets himself to loosen up and kind of realize, I've done that before too, where it's like, I've been in a fight, I've been super tense. So I made a joke in the middle of the fight to get myself to loosen up a bit, and I've said things to Demir in our last fight, not for him, but for me, to like get me to like, okay, like we're almost done here. Like, I'm going to make this little joke and then we're going to move on.
Like, kind of like Kevin Holland does. Like, you could say, and I know we have to let you go, but Kevin Holland isn't even fucking with another person. Sometimes you could tell he's having a good time, but I always think too that relaxes him to treat it almost like it's an intense sparring session, just to kind of give his own mind what he needs for that fight.
Yeah, I think everybody's different. I don't think we'll ever see Piotr Jan out there with his hands down and talking smack. I think he's just, I am in the pocket 24/7. I must destroy. And then you got guys like Bobby who are like, dude, like, I got to be Joe Cool. I got to move around. I got to like loosey goosey, go with the flow type of thing. And I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. I am very dedicated to destroy. But I know when I can like let loose a little bit.
Well, Grant, good luck. We appreciate you coming on. Again, we're sorry we have you and our next guest squeezed together. It was just the way it was booked, and we know you're limited. But, I mean, you're a great fighter, 21-1, and obviously Bobby Green is Bobby Green. So this is going to be an exciting fight. And good luck in this main event, man. It's a huge fight, and I'm sure it'll be exciting.
I appreciate it, man. And anytime you guys want to talk Star Wars, you call your boy, okay? Because I got
100%. All right, 'cause I have a lot of questions the next time you're on. I have a lot of criticisms and questions about Star Wars. Next time you're on, we'll really get into it.
Just message me. I will come on your guys' show anytime.
Thanks, Grant. Take care, man.
Thanks, Grant.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
All right, buddy. And we also have our next guest, right? Who's Ryan Clark, who is DC's podcast partner. I think he does 2 podcasts too. I can just ask him.
Why don't we ask him
when he comes in?
And being that he's a former NFL veteran. Oh, there we go.
There he is.
What up, fellas?
Hello, sir. How are you?
Oh, how are you?
Chilling, man. Good, brother. Good.
So let me ask you.
This thing moves a little bit, so it's like an iPad. So it's kind
cool.
So
okay. We got you.
Okay, cool.
Let me ask you, Ryan. How long have you been watching the UFC and mixed martial arts? Because I know you do your podcast with DC.
Yeah,
you're knowledgeable.
Yeah. So honestly, it started like mid 2000s when UFC started to put out the greatest knockout DVDs that you could buy at Best Buy. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Man, I think I was on that.
Hell yeah.
I might have been on that. I might have been. It might have been both good and bad for me. I don't know. It might have been.
Yeah. So I started then, man, and then I started training in Kempo, jiu-jitsu while I was playing because I thought it'd be good for the off season. And two, like I love training because I work like double leg takedowns, single legs, help me with tackling. Yeah. And so after that, man, you just kind of start to get into it. I was a huge Chuck Liddell fan. So like my time of really getting into it was when Chuck was light heavyweight champion and then kind of watching him phase out. So it was Rampage, then Rashad Evans knocked him out. And so like all those things broke my heart. Like Chuck was
the Rich Franklin fight, that Rich Franklin fight where I think Chuck had broken his arm with a kick, didn't he? And Franklin dropped him with a few seconds left, I think, in that round. Yeah.
And, so like, watching Chuck go, and then obviously the rise of John, Matt, beat George, but GSP just from a stylistic standpoint was so cool to me because I didn't feel like he was the best at any one thing, but I thought he was very good at a lot of things, and so we watched him beat so many different people different ways. Like you think back to Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit was kind of dotting GSP up, but he couldn't out wrestle him. And so like I just kind of fell in love with like the strategy of it. And you know how it is, bro. I'm a football player. So I think I'm a tough human. I know I'm not willing to do what y'all did, And so to see people that have that sort of courage, that sort of skill, it just fascinated me, man. And I started to love it. And now my son, who plays football at Arizona State, he's actually training Muay Thai where they think one of the guys would help Sugar Sean with his Muay Thai. And so he wants to fight when he finishes playing football. So we'll see.
Now, do you think now, being that you're such a fan of it and you were already obviously in the NFL, if you found this when you were a little bit younger, you think there's a chance you might have gave it a shot?
I don't know. Like for me, I'm from Louisiana and football's king. Right. And so I do feel for me to have gotten into it, I couldn't have been as good as I was in football.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah. So say I play football and I'm kind of just okay, then I think that's something you get into. It's an interesting conversation, but it's sort of seeing like that sort of athleticism that actually trained in mixed martial arts. You wrestled, you learned striking from a young age. I think we're going to start to see more people do that because it now is becoming something that you could reach superstardom in.
And you played for how many seasons did you play?
13.
And you played most of it in Pittsburgh?
8 in Pittsburgh. Yep.
I don't think there's a more miserable weather place on earth than Pittsburgh. Would you play in Pittsburgh and then go to Miami and go, what am I doing? Like, what am I thinking?
Hey, crazy enough, my last contract, my second to last contract at the year 8, Miami offered me more than Pittsburgh did. And I decided to go back.
To Pittsburgh.
To Pittsburgh. Yeah, I went back to Pittsburgh. For me, like I was so much just about football. And I'm an undrafted free agent. I'm sure Matt can relate to this with the way that he came up in fighting. Like I was making more money than I ever dreamed of making in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And so I wasn't the difference in the money to me didn't outweigh the happiness, didn't outweigh the comfort, didn't outweigh competing for championships. And I was like, well, dang, how rich do I need to be? And so I made the decision to go back to Pittsburgh. But probably every January, I look at myself and look at my wife and be like, how dang stupid are we?
Yeah.
You see people in short sleeves in Miami and dudes are trying to run miles in Pittsburgh in dang parkas and Eskimo suits.
Yeah, it's a different type of bitter because you have the water there. It's a bitter, awful place for the winter. But you're people in Pittsburgh are being very tough too. There's no one soft in Pittsburgh playing football.
Nah. Nobody's soft there. The fans ain't soft either though. Like it's a place. It's grimy, man. And like what I loved about it though was we didn't have all the other stuff that could surround football. Like dudes in our parking lot wasn't worried about who had the nicest car. The wives didn't have to come to the game in high heels and dresses for a fashion show. They showed up in Uggs and your jersey. You know what I'm saying? Like that's and a North Face jacket. You know what I mean? I love that about it because in the end, it was about how well do you play football. And if you win and if you ball there, it was a city, bro. Like you could go anywhere. Like we weren't used to that. I came from Washington, right? Where there's like all this other stuff. And I remember trying to get reservations for the first time in Pittsburgh. And the place was packed. And I was like, man, we can't get reservations. And one of my teammates told me, they're like, tell your wife to say that she just mentioned, well, it's my husband's one day off. They don't have practice on Tuesday. We were just trying to come eat. And so she says it and they go, well, who's your husband? She says my name. They know I play for the Steelers. Immediately a spot opens up. It was like the first time in life. I was like, oh my God, like you could call and tell them you. And so it was cool to be in a place that loved their team so much.
A place that appreciated that. Yeah. That's like, like, this is what it's like to be in the mafia. Like, this is how great it is. You just call and you get a reservation whenever you need it. It's awesome.
I felt like Tony Soprano showing up at Bada Bing, man. You know what I mean? I had my spot ready.
Now I want to know, you do the podcast with the great Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
The DC and RC podcast. How did that come about? How'd you get approached with that?
Man, I was actually on a training facility here in Louisiana. My boss that runs the NFL at ESPN calls me and goes, "Hey, UFC, the MMA, mixed martial arts, or part of ESPN wants to know if you want to do a podcast with Daniel Cormier." Just like that. That's how they asked me. And they were like, I was like, "Well, how much does it pay?" It doesn't pay much. I'm not gonna say how much it pays. It doesn't pay much, man. Just know that. And they probably didn't think I'd be very good at it anyway. And I was like, of course, I'm from Louisiana. DC's from Louisiana. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. I loved MMA. And I think it came about, though, because at this time, I would buy every pay-per-view and live tweet through the whole thing. And so it started to become a thing that like every pay-per-view event or fight night, they put my tweet up on the broadcast. And I think they just got used to seeing me and just kind of asked Daniel. They gave Daniel like a list of names of people he'd want to do it with, and he picked me, and that was how it started. And what I realized though, when it started, I was like, I don't know anything about fighting. Because that was the first thing I realized, and that was honestly like the most freeing moment for me, because it meant that I needed to learn more about fighting, but it also meant I got to speak from a fan's perspective. I'm never.
Yes.
I'm never gonna get. I'm never on that show, and I go, oh well, Alexa Grasso. You could tell like from all of Valentina Shevchenko's spinning attack, she knew she could take the back. I don't know how she knew that, but what I do know is that they showed a video of her practicing it.
Yeah.
Right? And now she executes it. And I do know how amazing to me as a fan that is. And I know for playing football, if I prepped all week for a certain thing, for a certain play, for a certain formation, I only get one chance to execute when I see it. And so I can kind of bring it from that perspective. But that was how the show came about, man. And it's just been fun to do it.
Fun,
very similar. Sorry to me and Matt. Like I got a call from Dana, but Matt, I'll never, because I don't fight, I'll never be able to analyze a fight like Matt can. Just to watch Matt talk jiu-jitsu or the anticipation of what someone's going to do. When you hear fighters talking about it, it's just, I can only speculate, and I'm always coming from a fan point of view who just knows something about it because I'm around it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool, man. I was watching, Matt will appreciate this. Probably 2 days ago, I watched Merab Piotr.
Oh, yes.
I watched it.
That's great.
Because the night it came on, I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing. I only watched bits and pieces of it. And there was a time you guys are in the corner. It's in between rounds, and you're talking to him, and you look at Aljo and you say, "Aljo, do you have anything for him?" Or Aljo, what you're seeing. And to me, it was like so cool because it was such a sense of team. Like I've only ever played team sports, and when I look at mixed martial arts, I'm like, bro, what the frick? Like they closed this cage and you looking at another killer, but to see Aljo support his friend, support his teammate, but you also give him an opportunity to weigh in because he's a world champion. You know what I mean? Like if you're seeing something, tell me what you see. I just thought that was so cool, and things that like the fans don't necessarily get to always see or get to always view or be a part of.
That fight, let me tell you something. I worked many championship, corners. That fight felt like a championship fight. There was so much on that was personal in a sense with the history of, where Merab is from, Georgia and Russia. Yeah. And it was so deep. Right. Merab. When it first got announced, he was like, Matt, he was telling me, he's like, it's so much, like I can't lose to him because of what happened. It was very deep. It was really wild.
Right.
But I'll tell you, I swear to God, I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about that corner because that was so, because if Merab, to know Merab is to love Merab. The guy is such a sweetheart of a guy. And that felt like his Super Bowl, his world championship. Right. It felt like. And the way he beat him was just so, it was like a slow death, and he was just grinding on. And in between rounds, between each round, we were just getting amped up. I'll tell you, what a night.
Wasn't that
Yeah, it
50-45? Am I crazy to remember that? I thought Merab dominated every round,
Yeah,
right?
he did.
Yeah.
He did. That's the night. It was what, 48, 49 takedown attempts. And what was so cool to watch it for me is all the respect I do have for Piotr Jan as a fighter. You know, like the dude's a killer. And he was on top of the world not too long ago. And then, you know, the disqualification to Aljo, that Aljo beat him. Really, you know, a debatable loss to Sugar Sean O'Malley. And then now you're fighting Merab and you're trying to get back in there. And then it's just this dude that's relentless. You know what I mean? Like he just kept going, like wouldn't stop. And you think about that fight for Merab and the fight with Jose. Like Jose's a legend to me. Like I said, that's when I was really just getting into like that decade run. And then to see Merab's pressure overwhelm someone like Jose as well, I think like that's what I'm fascinated with you guys, with fighters and with those athletes. It's the mental fortitude. Like, bro, I'm gonna be honest. Like, if I hit my shin in the house on the bed, I'm distraught for a week.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I couldn't imagine a dude consistently for 5 rounds, 3 rounds, late kicking me, because whether you check them or not, they hurt like hell.
Yeah.
You know, and like to just keep going. But it makes me think back to, you know, games where you're cleated, games where the shoulder comes out of place, and you just do it because that's what you know to do. And I just appreciate that about it.
Yeah, that's it, man. I mean, walking to the cage is walking to your fight is, it's one of those feelings where you know something's gonna happen. It's gonna be either the best night of your life, could be the worst night of your life. You know you're gonna get touched. So you're just, you know, it's wild, you know. It's good.
Yeah.
Do you still train?
No, I don't. You know, I wish I could. I don't have time. I got like 18 jobs, man. You know, I do a lot now, but that's something I want to get back into, because as an athlete, you sort of only know one way, you know? And so like every time I go to a gym, I get in the gym and I train like I'm playing football. And at 44 years old, I'll be 44 in 10 days. Like I can't do that anymore. You know, I need something too. Like I want to have some fun, you know, like pushing weights around, that junk ain't fun to me. You know, like running is not fun to me anymore. And so I'm gonna try to get back into it. I think the hardest part is, not that I know anything, but when you do know a little something, you know, is finding the right person to train you, to train with, that, you know, that understands, hey, bro, I'm not trying to go out and fight John Jones next week, but but I'm also not the guy that works at Apple who doesn't want to be pushed, who doesn't want to challenge himself. So finding that happy medium is important.
100%, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I train, and again I shouldn't even say train. I just take it because I don't want to get my ass kicked in a fucking, you know, in a mall. I mean that's all it is. You know what I mean? It's literally just so I can fend somebody off for long enough for a real alpha to come over and help me, just to not embarrass myself. And most people, I think, in daily life don't know how to get out of a guillotine, or they don't know how to maneuver to somebody's back.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm not freaking Alexander Volkanovski. If Brian Ortega mounts me, I'm just tapping. You know what I mean? If I get into, I'm done. So I know what you're saying, bro.
Do you know that round? That's funny. You said, I think that was the third round of that fight. And that Volkanovski, because I had thought that Holloway had beaten him at least one of those times. Mm-hmm. And he had that kind of thing where people were not sold on him. And I think that third round is what put him into everybody's eyes. Like, yeah, this guy is a murderer. Yeah. Like he's a really legit champion. I think that third round is what changed everybody's opinion on him.
You know what, too, though? And like the UFC has now found ways to create stars in a sport that is hard to create stars in, because your fate can change so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like who, and I could be wrong, you know, y'all know it better than me. Like who thought that Sean Strickland would dominate Izzy on the feet?
Man,
you know, like that's,
I mean, a decision.
Yeah, like a decision, bro. You know, like you outpoint Israel Adesanya. Come on, like nobody's expecting that. And so it's hard to have stars, but Max Holloway kind of captured the heart of the people because of the way he fought. Yeah. Right. The style, the willingness to stand and strike, and absorb strikes in the way that he does because his stand-up is beautiful. The head movement, the skill, but it's still, he takes a lot of punishment. And so, like, I think we love that about him. The second fight, a lot of people felt like Max could have won or should have won. And so I think it was the love for Max that kept Alexander Volkanovski from getting that love. But the Brian Ortega third round, the trilogy fight with Max, which was dominant.
Totally, yeah.
And I don't know who has ever gained more from a loss than Volk fighting Islam Makhachev.
Yep.
And so I think now we look at him as one of those dudes.
Yeah, the fact that he went up in weight and wound up losing a decision, and again, if I remember, it was a 3-2, very close fight. Yeah, so it was one of those things. It was amazing because Makhachev has just been fucking murdering people, and then to see a guy go up in weight against a dangerous guy on the ground like that, it's like, wow, man, he really is. I was wrong about him in the very beginning, and he's just one of the best champions in the history of the UFC.
It really is, man.
Is there a guy you love to watch more than anybody? Like I every time I think it's Gaethje, then I'll watch someone else. But is there somebody who you kind of gravitate to more?
Gaethje. Gosh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. I think I'm such a fan of a ton of people. But I hate to go back to Max, but it is Max for me.
Yeah.
I think of the Calvin Kattar fight.
Right? I was live for that in Abu Dhabi.
Right. Yeah. So, Calvin Kattar talked about Max, his striking, right? He talks about Max's striking, and Max is talking to DC on the side saying, I'm the best boxer in the UFC.
As he looks at them and slips a punch and jabs them in the face.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I never seen anything like that. I'm the best boxer, boom.
Right. Yeah. And so, Matt, like, when you watch stuff like that, it's impossible to not love a guy. And I'll say this about Max too. You look at the Korean zombie fight. Yeah. Right. Max is the number one contender who we all know that Alexander Volkanovski is 1A, Max is 1B. Like, we all feel that way. You take a fight because you feel like it could be exciting, because it's one that you've always wanted to take. You go to someone else's homeland to do it. You're fighting a dangerous man but he's eighth. Like, if Max loses that fight,
right,
it may crush his comeback to get another title shot. But if he wins it, it does zero for it. It's just like, it's a good fight. I love fighting. This is a dude that loves fighting. I'm gonna take this fight. And so I think that's why I gravitate to Max in that way. And Brandon Moreno too is a guy, man, I love to watch. And it's cool that, like, the smaller dudes are so exciting. But, man, you think about Brandon's 3 fights, it's 4 fights, right? With Davison, Figueiredo. Come on, man. Like all of those were exciting toe-to-toe fights. The fight with Alejandro Pantoja, an excellent fight, breaks his hand or his arm or something. And, I like those guys, man. What you guys do, man, and what you did for a living, bro, like, it is truly a gladiator sport. And to see people, bro, that consistently show up for us, right? Because y'all do that junk. Obviously, it's for you individually, for accomplishment. It's for your families, but it is also entertainment. That's why we pay for it, And to step in there, man, and entertain the way that you guys do, bro, and put your lives on the line like that, man, I think it's just, and your bodies, I think it's just an amazing thing. The hardest part for me is I hate, like, getting to know guys or getting to know their story, because I hurt so bad when they lose.
Yeah.
You know, man, like,
it's rough, man. And it's one of those things where, somebody's got it. There's 2 guys walking in. Yeah. Somebody's going to have a great night. Someone's going to have their heart broken or something else broken.
And it's hard to pick fights because you start to like all the guys you interview. Like, we'll have guys from the main event on. We'll have both fighters, and I'm like, ugh, I fucking like both of these guys. Like, it kind of it takes a little of the fun of rooting away, because it's very hard to root against a guy I've interviewed who I really like. So I can enjoy the fight, but it just, that's the only disadvantage to this job, is when you know a guy, you can't root against him because you don't want to see him get hurt.
Yeah, you know what, one of my worst experiences, and it wasn't MMA, it was boxing. Before Crawford Spence, we had both of them on my podcast, The Pivot, and loved them both. But it was the second time we'd interviewed Errol. Second time we sat with him. And so this time he was more open. He brought his son with him. And so you got to know him, you know, and it wasn't that you were rooting for either guy, but you knew them both. But to see him get beat in the way he did was hard for me. You know,
I'm not familiar. What happened on that fight? I don't watch boxing anymore.
So Errol Spence was undefeated. So was Bud Crawford. Errol Spence had 3 belts. Bud won. It was the unification fight. Errol Spence had never been knocked down, ever. Gets knocked down 5 times.
Oh.
He's TKO'd in, it was either 7 or 9. Whatever fight, whatever round it was 9th round. Okay, thanks, Jake. It was 9th round. And in the 7th, he was knocked down twice. It was just bloody. It was bad. And it looked like 2 fighters didn't belong in there together. And like you said, though, we'd interviewed them both.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a rooting interest, but I didn't want anyone to get beat like that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and embarrassed, and you feel like you know what these guys put into it, the way they train, how much it means to professional athletes to achieve in a certain way, and to see that was difficult. And so we had Izzy on before the first Alex Pereira fight, right? So we had him on, and my 2 partners are Channing Crowder and Fred Taylor. They weren't big MMA fans before this, or UFC fans. By this time, we had Daniel on the show. We had Sean on the show. Izzy was the 3rd guy. Do a great interview. They fall in love with him. Fred actually goes to the fight. We're watching it, and I'm all excited, right? 4 rounds are down. Izzy's up. I'm like, just stay awake, bro. Like, just stay alive. And then, you know, he loses in a TKO in that way, and you're like, frick.
Yeah.
You know, like, and so we've had that happen a couple of times, man. It's hard.
The only thing about when you see a guy lose like that, sometimes the judging, especially in boxing, sometimes the judging is so head-shakingly bad that I would rather see a guy lose to a TKO or something, because at least the win is definitive. At least you don't have that, God almighty, like, because some of the judges, some of the decisions are so egregiously bad, like that 10-8 that they screwed Shevchenko out of.
I'm about to say, UFC's been pretty bad, bro.
Yes, it has. Yes, that judging, that they screwed Valentina with that 10-8 round in favor of
Alexa Grasso.
Grasso, yeah. I mean, it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't know how does that guy not get punished for that? How is there not a panel of people, judges that watch and go, look, you're too lousy to judge. So yeah, I always prefer to see a finish for that reason, just because it's definitive and there's no, you know.
But like Matt, in your experience though, how does bad judging affect the fighter? You know, in a situation, you know, like we could go back to Piotr Jan, Sean O'Malley, you know, which was a highly disputed decision, and people have all of their thoughts about why it was, you know, called that way or scored that way. But think about Piotr Jan's dissension or his trajectory. That fight's big to him, you know, because you lose to Aljo, you take that fight, and then you fight Merab. Now you're on this losing streak, and nobody even knows where you are. Nobody knows where to rank you. How, if there's even a route to regaining your title, how does that affect the fighter, man?
It's hard to say. It's like, I'd say it's a case-by-case thing. In that case with Peter Yan, I might be one of the rare guys that thought that. I remember was going to the cards. I thought O'Malley was going to get it, even though most people did agree. They thought that Peter Yan should have gotten it.
Yeah.
But my point is, I had fights personally. I fought BJ Penn 20 years ago, literally, and the online viewing had it for me. And it was close, but he got the decision. How about this? Now that I look at it, it was close. I could see there and be like, oh, it should have been me, but I don't know. We both made it through. It came down to the last round. He had a good poker face. He was a little more tired than I thought he was. I didn't think he was that tired. So I should have done more. I'm the guy to blame myself more. I'm not that like, you're right, I should have got it. Because I don't know. I'm more self-critical, I'd say. But other guys, but I've had a couple of fights like that. So the individual could either be like, I'm getting screwed. Like Peter Yan, was saying, "Oh, the judges don't like me," and it's like, "Hey, dude, calm down, guy. I don't know. That was pretty close." So
Ankalaev did the same thing, I think. Magomed Ankalaev after the Blachowicz fight, didn't he? He was like going, the judge of the UFC judges. I'm not fighting for UFC. Some guys get very, very pissed off.
Yeah, like that's my thing. Like in those close fights, like think about Matt's fight with BJ Penn, right? You're fighting the guy they call the Prodigy. Yeah. And sometimes I think storylines start to play with the heads of fighters. Because if you're Jan and you're fighting O'Malley, the first thing you think is, this is the golden boy, right? Like this is the golden goose. They want him to get the title shot. And even if that's not the truth, you know what I mean? Like those stories start to play with your head and you're like, they don't like me. They like him more. And I think that's always the difficult thing for me, because you look at Alexa Grasso, Valentina Shevchenko, the first thought that would come to my mind is like, well, maybe UFC wants some new blood, you know, when really like the judges are the judges. They're actually like even separate from the organization anyway. The organization isn't picking those. And so I think it's tough for the sport too, right? If you're the fan and we're sitting on the outside looking in, and like you said, egregious, like a 10-8 round in that fight.
Terrible.
You know, and that round being the only round that makes it a draw as well. You see, like that round actually took something from a fighter. Oh, like 100%. That's hard for the fan, you know, to deal with, because who knows if Valentina gets another shot or the next shot.
She was on her feet for 3.5 minutes. I think that fight went to the ground, and they were exchanging punches. And I don't comprehend how someone could call it a 10-8 and not be fired, or the athletic commission not take action against it. It was that bad. It was not close to a 10-8 round. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen judging wise. And I've seen a few bad ones. Yeah. Jared Gordon got screwed. I think it's Paddy Pimblett. That was not a good decision.
Paddy Pimblett. Yep. So, but see, though, like isn't that the problem too, though, when it happens in fights like those, where one guy or one woman is clearly more popular.
Yeah.
Because even if the UFC doesn't see him that way, we do, the fans, right? And if you're Jared Gordon, you know that too. Like, you know, it's better for the UFC if Paddy Pimblett doesn't take this loss. And even if that doesn't affect the judging at all, it's hard for that to not play with your mind. The only saving grace in UFC is we've seen guys lose and become champions.
Yeah.
Right? Like people don't walk around undefeated in the octagon. You know, like that's it. Like that doesn't happen. You know, you look at John Jones, Khabib Nurmagomedov, like those guys are anomalies to fight that long, to fight at high levels against great competition and never have that one day that you're off just enough or the other guy is as good or is good enough to beat you, man. And so like, that's why, but you know, and I'm a football guy, so you guys don't put this clip anywhere. That's why it's the best sport in the world.
There you go.
It just really is, man. Like think about this, you know, and I can ask you guys this. It's like, I won't tune into every football game. I just won't. But I'll watch every fight card, because even if I don't know a dude or know two dudes or know two women, it doesn't mean it can't be a great fight.
Right.
Just because they aren't ranked top 5 or top 10 or don't have the name recognition, it doesn't mean we can't see high skill. We won't see amazing toughness. We won't see a wire or see an amazing knockout, because one of them does suck. You know what I mean? So it is like, I think it's just it's the greatest sport in the world.
This is a fight that I'm looking forward to really quick. And people have been talking about it. There's a buzz about it. I'm interested. Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson. Come on. I want it.
Why? Tell me why you want it, Matt. Please tell me why you want it.
This is why I want it. Tony is losing, but he's losing the top-notch guys. He's losing to really, really top-notch guys. And in those fights,
he has moments.
We see moments of, I don't want to say old Tony, the older Tony or prime Tony, but we see glimpses of what made Tony so great. So now we got Paddy Pimblett. He's coming off that win, which a lot of people are giving him crap over, and people say you can look good off of a loss. Now he has a win and people are talking trash about him. So now he's going versus Tony Ferguson, who's on a skid. He has to be, if he's the next, the second coming, he's going to be a future champion. He has to beat Tony Ferguson. He has to beat him. He can't.
I agree.
Can't even be. He has to beat him. So, and Tony Ferguson, we all know he has to win. So, to me, it could be a changing of the guard, or it could be Tony Ferguson saying, "Not yet, mother effers." It's just very exciting for me. That's why I'm excited.
Okay, so here's my thought on it. Right.
Okay.
If Tony Ferguson wins,
yes,
it doesn't. The only thing it does for him is allows him to get another fight.
Yes.
Right? Because it's not going to put him in championship contention because Paddy Pimblett isn't there yet. It's not going to give him no one's going to think to ourselves, Tony Ferguson is back, the boogeyman is back. Let's put him in championship fights.
Yeah.
Right. We just won't feel like he's forced to retire. And if Paddy Pimblett wins, I'm going to kind of be like, well, Tony's lost 6 in a row. Like Paddy should win this fight. But what's scary to me is I think Tony's still the better fighter. I just do. After watching Paddy Pimblett against Jared Gordon, I'm like, there's a lot of holes in this game. And think about this. Think about Tony Ferguson's first round against Michael Chandler.
Yeah.
I was there in Phoenix that day. I was like, is Tony Ferguson about to beat Michael Chandler? And, then Michael pulls the punt from hell and, front kicks him in his chin and drops him. And then you're like, oh, okay. Then Nate Diaz is able to submit him. And it was this constant loss after loss after loss. But he was losing to dudes like Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, Nate Diaz. That's a step above Paddy Pimblett. That's a large step above Paddy Pimblett.
Yes.
That's a tough fight.
That's what makes it so intriguing, though. Don't give him another, top 10 guy or anything. Give him an up-and-coming guy trying to prove his worth.
Yep.
Say, forget about that Jared fight. Look at me now. And I'll tell you, I don't know. For the reasons I stated, that's one of the most anticipated fights for me. I'm looking.
It's intriguing. No, it is super intriguing. I'm interested in seeing what happens, and I'm also interested in seeing the aftermath based on what guy wins.
I think Tony has to I think they will. It's like Robbie Lawler went out, even though he had such a tremendous win in his last fight. Who was that? Was that Chiesa he fought? Nico Price. Nico Price, yes. Which I didn't see that ending that way that quickly. But even then, he just went out on top. And I think Ferguson, even if he gets a decisive win, he's 39. I think he steps. I think that's it.
So here's what's funny. I told DC that, right? DC and I talked about it. Hell, what's today? Wednesday? Yesterday. We talked about it yesterday. And he said that, I said, man, for me, it would be beautiful to see Tony Ferguson win this fight, take off the gloves, leave him on the mat.
Yeah.
Just for us to one time feel what we felt on that winning streak of his that put him at the top of the division. He thinks if Tony wins, there's no way he retires.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? He thinks,
maybe,
you really?
I'm with DC. Don't get me wrong. I think that
might be right.
What you're saying is storybook, but I don't see Tony going out. I see Tony. I think they're going to be like, all right, Tony, we got to lock you out of the cage because I don't think that guy's he's always going to be looking for the next fight, I feel.
You know what? Yeah. Jake just messaged me, and this may be it. He said that Tony is looking to fight McGregor after. And you know what? Tony is one of those guys. He's such a name that he may just get a couple of these giant fights with guys who are big names because Tony is Tony. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will actually match him up with a guy like McGregor who wants a guy who's a huge name, who's also, who's getting up there in as opposed to some, Justin Gaethje or somebody like that. So yeah, maybe he will get another couple.
Nobody wants Justin Gaethje right now.
No.
Sheesh.
Gaethje McGregor is the fight I want, and it's never going to happen.
Yeah, that dude, right? That dude is violent, man. I was in London for Usman Edwards, the third fight, obviously, the second championship fight, and I was cage side, and that Fiziev fight starts, and it looks like an older dude fighting a younger guy. Fiziev's like so quick, he's
fast.
getting shots off, man, and then Gaethje starts to touch him, and it was like a grown man fighting a teenager. Every time he hit him, you could hear it on side the cage. Like, it was gruesome. Like, my wife's next to me, and every time it happens, she's jumping because it was that sort of violent. And then the head kick in Salt Lake City against Dustin Poirier, who's one of the best in the world as well. It's the tough thing for Gaethje is you think Habib walks through his punches the first round, submits him in his retirement fight. Charles Oliveira, he drops Charles early. Charles comes back and submits him. You start to wonder that if Islam is able to beat Charles the second time, what happens to Justin in that fight? He almost seems like kind of like Dustin has been, is I can be better than everybody else, but maybe the elite of the elite. So I can't wait to see what happens for him next.
Ryan, look, this was great, man. Let's promote your podcast too. With is it DC with RC or RC with DC? How does it go?
Well, you know I'm second, man. I'm a football guy, so it's DC and RC, man. It comes on every Tuesday on YouTube, on ESPN2 at midnight. You can get it wherever you get your podcast. And guys, thank you so much. But Matt, man, I just want to give you your flowers, bro. I'm such a huge fan of yours. Obviously, we all know one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. But I'm even more impressed with what you're doing as a coach. I train professional football players, man. It's a passion of mine. And I understand how, as a coach, you live and breathe what those dudes do every time they step into the octagon the way I do on the field. So congrats on all your success, both in your career, man, and post-career. And thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks a lot, man. And please come back again, man. This was fun.
Man, whenever you guys have me, man, I'd love to be back.
Yeah, great having you on.
Take care,
thank you,
Ryan.
guys.
Thank you.
All right, take care,
Yes,
Ryan.
sir. Man, appreciate y'all.
And Matt, we would be negligent if we did not, before we go, promote the fights this weekend. This Saturday, Grant Dawson. It's Dawson Green, of course. It's this Saturday, 4 o'clock prelims. I love these fights. And the main card's 7 p.m. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of eyes on this fight. Bobby Green, Grant Dawson, a great main event. Joe Pfeiffer, Abdul Razak Al Hassan is the co-main. And again, Alex Morano and Joaquin Buckley is the third fight up. Ricky Glenn, Drew Dober. Just a great card all around. So starting at 4 p.m. with the prelims. And this was great, man. Thank you to our guests, Grant and Ryan.
And
What, buddy?
Fat Black Pussycat. Are you gonna
Tonight,
be at the
7
Fat-
p.m. Yes.
Fat Black Pussycat.
Yes, tonight, 7 p.m. I will be there.
All right, Jimmy. Hey, man. That's it.
Yes.
I had such a fun time. Like,
Me too.
nice guy. And I could talk to that Grant Dawson about.
They were
Star
great,
Wars
yeah.
all day long,
Yes.
you know. Hey, man. I'll talk to you soon, Jimmy. Have fun tonight on your set, huh?
Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Jimmy.
Bye, pal.